Jonathan Antoine's story begins in Essex, England, in a home defined by simplicity and closeness rather than ambition or spotlight. His early years were shaped by routine, family connection, and a sense of calm that quietly nurtured his inner world. He was not the loudest child in the room, nor the one seeking attention. Instead, he gravitated towards stillness, finding comfort in spaces where he could think and feel without interruption. Music entered his life gently, not as a career path but as a natural extension of his emotions. He would hum softly, experiment with melodies, and lose himself in sound long before anyone imagined an audience. His parents recognized something special in this quiet passion and supported him in ways that built confidence without pressure. Those formative years were not about recognition or achievement, but about discovery. They laid the groundwork for resilience, self-awareness, and emotional depth, qualities that would later become essential as his life moved into unexpected territory, discovering a voice without an audience. Before any stage lights or applause, Jonathan's relationship with music was deeply personal. It was not about performance or validation, but about expression. In the privacy of his home, or during quiet moments alone, he explored his voice with curiosity and instinct rather than discipline. There was something almost instinctive about the way he approached singing, as if it were less a skill he learned and more a language he already understood. School life presented its own challenges, particularly for someone naturally reserved, but music became a steady anchor. It offered him a sense of identity that didn't rely on fitting in or being noticed. Teachers and family members began to see glimpses of his potential, not just in technical ability, but in emotional delivery. Even then, there was a sense that his voice carried more than sound. It carried feeling. These early experiences were quiet but significant, building confidence slowly and naturally. Long before the world heard him, he had already found something meaningful within himself. The moment that changed everything. In 2012, Jonathan stepped onto a national stage that would alter the course of his life in an instant. Performing alongside Charlotte Giaconelli, he introduced himself to a vast audience not through words, but through song. Their performance carried a sense of sincerity that immediately set it apart. What struck people most was the contrast between Jonathan's quiet demeanor and the powerful, controlled voice that emerged when he began to sing. It felt genuine, unpolished in the best way, and deeply moving. The audience responded with immediate warmth, and the judges recognized something rare. That moment was not just a successful audition, it was a turning point where private passion met public recognition. Overnight, his life shifted from relative anonymity to national attention. It was both exciting and overwhelming, a sudden expansion of a world that had previously been small and familiar. That stage didn't just showcase his talent, it introduced him to a future he hadn't fully imagined. Building a connection through music. As the competition progressed, Jonathan and Charlotte developed a strong connection with audiences. Their performances were not just technically impressive but emotionally engaging, creating moments that people remembered long after the music ended. Their partnership felt authentic, rooted in friendship and shared experience rather than constructed for entertainment. Week after week, they demonstrated consistency, blending youthful energy with classical influence in a way that felt refreshing. Audiences appreciated their sincerity, and that authenticity became their defining characteristic. Even when faced with suggestions that Jonathan might shine more as a solo performer, they chose to remain together, reflecting loyalty and mutual respect. This decision strengthened their bond and deepened public admiration. Their journey through the competition became about more than winning, it became about connection. By the time they reached the finals, they had already left a lasting impression. Their story showed that success isn't always measured by outcomes, but by the relationships and emotions created along the way. Life after sudden recognition. Following their success, life accelerated quickly for Jonathan and Charlotte. Opportunities appeared almost overnight, bringing with them excitement, but also pressure. They transitioned into professional artists, recording music and performing for larger audiences than they had ever imagined. For Jonathan, this shift required significant adjustment. The quiet spaces he once relied on were replaced by schedules, expectations, and constant visibility. While music remained his foundation, everything around it changed. The transition from student to public figure is rarely simple, and for someone naturally introspective, it can feel especially intense. Yet, he navigated this new reality with a sense of calm determination. He focused on the music, allowing it to ground him amidst the noise. Behind the polished performances, there was a young person learning to adapt, to balance personal identity with public perception. This period was not just about building a career, it was about learning how to exist within a world that suddenly felt much larger. The evolution of a creative partnership. As time passed, Jonathan and Charlotte's artistic paths began to evolve. What started as a shared journey gradually revealed individual interests and ambitions. This shift was not abrupt or dramatic but natural, reflecting personal growth. Jonathan found himself increasingly drawn to classical music, exploring its depth and discipline, while Charlotte began to experiment with other creative avenues. Their partnership remained respectful and supportive, but it became clear that their futures might look different. The decision to part ways professionally was thoughtful rather than reactive. It allowed both artists the space to explore who they were individually. For fans, it marked the end of a familiar chapter, but it also signaled the beginning of new possibilities. Growth often requires change, and this was no exception. Their separation was not a loss but a transition, one that honored what they had achieved together while making room for what lay ahead. Stepping into individual identity. Jonathan's move into a solo career represented a significant moment of self-definition. Without the dynamic of a duo, he had the opportunity to shape his artistic voice entirely on his own terms. This transition required both confidence and vulnerability. There was no longer a shared spotlight. Every performance, every decision, rested solely on his shoulders. Yet, this independence also brought clarity. It allowed him to explore his strengths more deeply and connect with audiences in a more personal way. His first solo projects reflected this shift, showcasing not just his vocal ability, but his individuality as an artist. The journey was not about reinvention but about refinement. He embraced his natural style, focusing on authenticity rather than change for the sake of attention. This phase of his career highlighted the importance of self-belief. It demonstrated that stepping forward alone can be both challenging and rewarding, especially when guided by a clear sense of purpose. Navigating the weight of expectations. With success comes expectation, and for Jonathan, these expectations formed quickly. Audiences who had been captivated by his early performances wanted to see continued growth, consistency, and excellence. While this support was encouraging, it also carried pressure. Maintaining a high standard while evolving as an individual is not always easy, particularly under public scrutiny. Jonathan approached this challenge with thoughtfulness rather than urgency. He did not rush to meet expectations, but instead allowed his development to unfold naturally. At times, he spoke about the emotional aspects of this pressure, acknowledging moments of doubt and reflection. These insights revealed a grounded perspective, one that recognized both the opportunities and the challenges of his position. Rather than being defined by external expectations, he focused on internal growth. This approach allowed him to maintain a sense of balance, ensuring that his journey remained authentic rather than driven solely by outside demands. A more reflective artistic direction. As Jonathan matured, his music began to reflect deeper emotional layers. While his early performances showcased vocal strength and technical precision, his later work carried a sense of introspection. He explored themes of resilience, understanding, and personal growth, allowing listeners to connect with his experiences on a more meaningful level. This evolution was gradual, shaped by time and experience rather than deliberate change. His voice retained its power but gained nuance, conveying emotion with subtlety as well as strength. This shift marked an important stage in his artistic journey. It showed that true artistry involves growth, not just repetition. By embracing a more reflective approach, he created music that resonated differently, inviting audiences to engage not just with the sound, but with the story behind it. This period highlighted his ability to adapt while remaining true to himself, balancing technical skill with emotional authenticity in a way that felt both natural and compelling, embracing honest conversations. Over time, Jonathan began to share more about his personal experiences, including moments of emotional challenge. His approach to these conversations was calm and measured, avoiding dramatization while remaining sincere. He spoke about his feelings in a way that felt relatable, emphasizing that struggle is a part of being human rather than something extraordinary. This openness added depth to his public image, allowing people to see beyond the performer to the individual. It also helped create a sense of connection with those who may have faced similar experiences. He did not position himself as a spokesperson or authority, but simply as someone sharing his perspective. This authenticity resonated with many, reinforcing the idea that vulnerability can coexist with strength. By speaking honestly, he contributed to a broader understanding of emotional well-being, showing that it is possible to navigate challenges with quiet resilience and thoughtful reflection. Finding clarity through self-understanding. In 2022, Jonathan shared that he had been diagnosed with autism, offering new context for many of his past experiences. This moment was not presented as a dramatic revelation, but as a step toward greater self-understanding. He spoke about the diagnosis in a reflective and thoughtful way, emphasizing how it helped him better understand his own patterns and perceptions. Rather than seeing it as a limitation, he viewed it as a form of clarity. This perspective encouraged others to consider the diversity of human experience, highlighting the importance of empathy and awareness. His response to the diagnosis demonstrated a balanced outlook, focusing on growth rather than definition. It became another layer in his journey, adding insight without overshadowing the person he had always been. This moment reinforced the idea that understanding oneself is an ongoing process, one that can bring both answers and new questions. A gentle approach to health and balance. Jonathan has also spoken about his efforts to improve his physical health, emphasizing gradual and sustainable changes. His approach reflects patience and realism rather than quick solutions. He focused on building habits that could be maintained over time, such as walking regularly and making mindful choices about nutrition. This perspective aligns with his broader approach to life, steady, thoughtful, and grounded. He acknowledged that progress is not always linear, sharing both successes and challenges without exaggeration. This honesty made his journey relatable, showing that improvement is a process rather than a destination. For him, health became less about external expectations and more about internal well-being. It was another aspect of self-awareness, reflecting his commitment to understanding and caring for himself in a balanced way. This approach highlights the value of consistency and patience, reminding others that meaningful change often happens gradually. Choosing a more private rhythm. In recent years, Jonathan has embraced a quieter lifestyle, stepping back from constant public attention. This decision reflects a shift in priorities, focusing on balance rather than visibility. He continues to create and perform, but on terms that feel comfortable and sustainable. Social media offers occasional glimpses into his life, but he maintains clear boundaries, preserving a sense of privacy. This approach challenges the assumption that success requires constant exposure. Instead, it suggests that fulfillment can come from a more measured pace. For Jonathan, this choice aligns with his personality, allowing him to remain connected to his work without being overwhelmed by external demands. It demonstrates that stepping back does not mean stepping away, it means redefining how one engages with the world. This quieter rhythm has become an essential part of his journey, supporting both his personal well-being and his artistic growth. Living with awareness and intention today. Jonathan approaches life with a sense of awareness shaped by his journey. He does not present himself as someone who has reached a final destination, but as someone who continues to learn and grow. This mindset allows him to move forward without pressure, focusing on progress rather than perfection. His experiences have given him perspective, helping him understand both the opportunities and challenges he has faced. He values reflection, taking time to consider his choices and their impact. This approach creates a sense of balance, supporting both his personal and professional life. It reflects a thoughtful way of living, one that prioritizes understanding over urgency. By embracing this perspective, he continues to evolve in a way that feels authentic and sustainable. A story still unfolding. Jonathan Antoine's journey is far from complete. Each phase of his life adds new layers, shaping a story that continues to evolve. From quiet beginnings to public recognition, from partnership to independence, his experiences reflect growth and discovery. There is no single defining moment, only a series of transitions that have contributed to who he is today. This ongoing process highlights the nature of personal development, showing that change is constant. His story is not about dramatic shifts, but about steady progress. It is a reminder that life unfolds over time, shaped by choices, experiences, and reflection. As he continues to move forward, his journey remains open-ended, filled with possibilities that have yet to be explored, a lasting connection with audiences. The impact Jonathan made during his early career continues to resonate with those who heard him. His performances created moments that stayed with people, not just because of technical excellence, but because of emotional sincerity. This connection has endured over time, reflecting the authenticity he brings to his work. Audiences remember how his voice made them feel, and that emotional response remains significant. His story represents more than talent, it represents honesty and individuality. This lasting impression highlights the importance of connection in art, showing that what truly resonates is not perfection, but sincerity. Jonathan's ability to create that connection has been a defining aspect of his journey, one that continues to shape his relationship with listeners. A life guided by music and meaning. Ultimately, Jonathan Antoine's life reflects a balance between music, self-awareness, and intentional living. He has navigated success, change, and personal growth with a sense of calm that mirrors his beginnings. His journey shows that it is possible to pursue a passion while remaining grounded, to evolve without losing authenticity. Music remains at the heart of his story, not just as a career but as a form of expression and understanding. Through it, he continues to connect with others and with himself. His path is not defined by constant visibility, but by meaningful engagement. This perspective offers a different view of success, one that values depth over attention. Jonathan's story is a reminder that growth is ongoing, and that a life shaped by purpose and reflection can be just as powerful as one lived in the spotlight.